Hello there, welcome to SwiftCat Code Factory, and this video is about macOS Development Complete course, and this is my fifth episode. If you haven't watched my previous episode, I have provided its link in my video description. You can check that. So what we are trying to make in this video is we are trying to get a JSON from an API with a SwiftUI, or else we can say load data from external JSON API in a macOS application. So what we expect at the end of this video is we have a window over here, and this data is being populated from our JSON object. And I'm trying to do this project in a MVVM architecture, software architecture. So let's dive into that. First is first, I'm searching for my Xcode, and in this project I'm going to do everything from scratch. Alright, so I'm going to do this in Xcode, and let's open that, and here I have option to create a new Xcode project. I'm going to click that, and here we have the option to choose a template, be iOS, macOS, and all. I have macOS and it's a single application. Click next, and the product name, let it be like a macOS API demo maybe. Alright, and the interface, let me select that as SwiftUI itself, and the language will be Swift. Click next. So I'm going to save this in my macOS project folder, so let's create that. So after this, let's discuss about the MVVM form, how we're going to do the procedures and all. Most of the developers and also from the senior developers, we try to make the application in MVVM architecture. So first is first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a constant file. Inside the constant file, I'm going to give the NS objects. That's going to be the base URL and also the endpoint. So first is first, I'm going to create a new file, which is going to be a zip file. Let's name it this as a zip file, and constant. Alright, let's create that, and from here I'm going to create a class, and that's going to be the constants, and that is going to be an as object. Inside that I'm going to give a struct with the URLs, and that is going to be a two static thing. That's static let base URL will be equal to HTTP, and also I'm going to give an endpoint of this, so I'm going to copy this and make a space over here. So here I'm going to give us as a end, or else let's say let users. So this is the URL which I'm going to paste. If you can find something like sorry, the thing I'm going to make this is as endpoints, let it be. In Google you can find a basic URL which is having JSON to get an API. This is having a model object and everything else. So here is the object. If I click here, and this is an open API source. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click here, copy this, and coming back to my Xcode, and let me paste this over here. And after this, the end URL is like /users. Let me copy that and paste it over here. Simple, that's it. So the next step is I want to create a model for this JSON object. So that's what I'm going to do next. So I'm going to make another file for this as well in the Xcode. Next is I'm going to create a model. So in order to do that, I'm just copying this whole. I will provide this link in my video description, and there's a library which is for app.cubetype.io. I'm going to paste it over here. So here I have the model, so just giving the user and all these stuffs. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to copy this code, and let's come back to our Xcode, and I'm going to create a file which I can name it as user new file. It's going to be a zip file. Let maybe user, and inside this I'm going to paste that. Simple. Alright, so here after quotable I'm going to write is identifiable. Maybe you can add hashable as well. Let be identifiable. The reason why is in macOS application we may need sometimes, okay, so in some models we may require this identifiable in order to do that. And the next thing what I'm going to do here is next is a very important thing. Next we are going to make a new file which is for the authentication. So I'm going to create a new file, or as this is for actually the service calls on all these things. Click next, and I'm going to name that as authentication service. You can name whatever. Let's create that. And inside this I'm going to create a class folder, and that class going to be authentication service, and that's going to be ns object, and you can find as a URL session delegate. Alright, and from there let me make some space over here. First of all I'm going to give here a type alias and return response will be equal to, I'm going to give a success failure message. If the API get failed, we need to pass the message. That's why. And the success is actually but a whole which is saying to be true or false. And the last one is the user list. User list that going to be user, which we created that stuff there, and going to be a void. Over here, and then now I'm going to create a var user array. After getting the data from the API, I need to store this somewhere, right? So in that I'm going to use this, and the next one is I'm going to make function which I'm going to call this user details. Let's say that get user details. I'm going to build the completion handler, and the completion handler will be of escaping, and this is going to be the return response. Okay, and let's do that. First of all I'm going to write the URL. So let's say URL, let URL is equal to constants dot base URLs dot base URL plus constants dot URLs dot users. Simple. So and the next one is the guard. This is the thing which we have already stored in our constant file. You'll be knowing this, yeah. And next is, let's say guard. And the guard will be of let URL will be equal to the URL, and that's going to be the string, and that's going to be the URL itself, else I need to return. If the API is wrong, you need to return, right? And then let's say some session will be equal to URL session dot share, and then if let before that session dot data data task. This is the main thing which we are going to pass this URL and the data response and all. We are going to handle this. So with the request, I'm going to with the request is URL URL, and the completion handler will be going to let it be like this, with session.data task and the URL, and the URL will be of base self, and I'm going to give a completion handler with the data response, and finally I need the error as well to get printed. Error in, yeah, here, there. Inside this I'm going to write if let, and I want the response. We are just checking the response first of all. If the response is equal to response, print response. Alright, and this is not really necessary, but let it be there. And then if let data equal to data, if I have the data, then do, let's say, let JSON, this is the object we are getting, right? So is equal to try. I'm asking this to try JSON serialization with a JSON object. This gives a true JSON object with data, and also I want an option as well, so let it be an option something else for time being. Then if the response, if I'm getting the JSON and it's trying to print that, then I'm going to write the decoder. This is the stuff we are going to decode the object into our model. Let it be a JSON decoder. Those JSON decoder, and then decoder dot key value strategy is equal to convert response. Then I'm going to write let response value will be equal to try to decoder dot decode, and then I'm going to decode this user dot self, and this is from the data what we're getting. And then let be the user array which I have declared there will be the value of this response value. Alright, and then I'm going to give the completion. If it works, it's fine, we are done with the thing. This is completion with the true, and if it is true means we don't have the error, right? So then I can get passing the array, user array. This is for do, and if it is if it catches error, what we need to do, catch, and here I'm going to go the completion handler as false, because here we have failed. Then the error dot localized description, then I have the array of empty. This is all about the thing. Alright, and then after catch I'm going to give this as dot resume if in case it's a loop. Alright, so that's all in the get user for details which I have written here, which I'm going to use it for the service calls. So what I did here is I'm passing the base URL and URL, and I have the URL session, and if we are getting the passing the data and the data is success, and if we are able to decode the data in our model, then I'm sending the completion handler that our API call is success, otherwise the API call is failure. Simple. Next is I'm going to create a user view model. So I'm going to create a new file here, and this will be of zip file. Click next, and I'm going to name it as user view model. Here we go. And this one I'm going to make a class over here, and that class will be the user view model. And from there, it's an observable object, which means I need to observe while running this application, and when it's identified, I need to pass publisher. So let's say this is going to be published var users. Going to be this is going to be user, and let it be like this. And then I'm going to write a function which is for the get users, and this is get users in this function, and I'm doing it in asynchronous, which means this need to run in the background. Then I'm going to write this authentication service dot. Here I have this get user details. Here we go. Here's the details, and this get user details, I'm going to make it in self, and this is going to be the self declaration, and I have here the success message, which message is the error message actually mean, and then I need the user list as well. Alright, and this is going to be in, and then if success, I'm going to write I want to save this somewhere else, so let it be the users equal to the user list. And if in case else, I just want to print the error somewhat if it went wrong. Space that, let's say print message. This message is nothing but the error which we are getting from in case the API gets failed. Alright, so that's in our class user view model. Then I'm coming back to the final section. Let's say this is authentication service. Oh, like this. Yeah. Func get users asynchronous, and I have this user detail, and that goes to the authentication service. Then I'm coming back to this content view. Here I'm going to remove this and make some alterations in order to list out our data. Alright, remove this, and this is going to be the last step, what I'm going to do in the content view. So I'm going to remove this help thing. Before that, let me do something declaration in the content view. So let's do the state, and this is going to be the private var. This is the var declaration actually, and this is going to be the users, and equal to user that array. And from here I'm going to add a observable object. This is from the view model which we created in the previous one. So let's say view model, and it will go to the user view model, and from inside the body I'm going to remove this and add few lines. Let's go for the HT stack. I want this to be in horizontal, so I'm using horizontal stack. And from there inside, I'm going to go with a list of stuff. This list is going to be the view model dot users, and I want to be in the ID, which is of like ID by itself. And then this is going to be in an item like stuff. So okay, So let be this item in, and from there I'm going to go here, observable object. Alright, we will find that later. Okay, and text, I'm going to group a text over here, and that text is going to be a string of kind, and that will be the item dot name. And then let me give me this some framework. So let's say frame of width, let it be a 500, and height of maybe a 480. Alignment we don't need alignment. It will be like this, and then I'm going to do a task. Inside the task, I'm going to await the function which I need to call this ViewModel dot get users. Fine. This is all about the thing. So this is our observable. It's not observable, sorry for that. It should be an observed object, because this is, after getting this observed object, we are going to pass that inside this and awaiting this ViewModel dot get users. And finally from here it's going to this get user API call. When it's success, our value gets stored here and calls completion as true, and it comes back to this get users stuff, and finally go to the view, which is the controller, I mean like content view. Inside this, when it's get updated, this data will be populated in the name. So let's run and check what we did so far. Oh, here you can find this the server with the specified host name cannot be found. This is because the reason is, whenever you use a macOS application, you make sure that you go to the sign-in capabilities, and let's click this network incoming outgoing connections. Now close this, run it again. Let's see if that doesn't make any change. Here we go. I have the data all that populated. This is from the content view, and from the authentication service I'm just printing the JSON as well. I found here the JSON get printed, everything else, all the data are being populated, and also from the window also I'm getting all the data. So this is very easy and simple. This is how we make get API or JSON API responses and data which we can populate and show it in the macOS application. So this is about the macOS get API application. And if you this video, I hope that this video may help someone else, and I recommend to subscribe if you want to further study with the macOS applications and augmented reality later. So that's all in this video, lads. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for watching. See you in the next video.